Hello and welcome to my part list for streamers. Now this is basically a PC that will be specifically designed to do streaming at the same time while doing gaming. Now most streamers, if you're not really into particularly the knowledge behind how streaming works, if you're not, too positive on, what the options are, I'll explain them real quick. Two options for streamers, especially if you're getting into streaming, at a heavy amount. There's two options. You can have a second computer, encode the stuff and send it off, or you can have this, single computer do both jobs of rendering and, of course, encoding the stuff off to YouTube, Twitch, etc. So what today's system build is basically designed to do that second option. It's supposed to encode it and play at the same time. And now this is all under $1,000. I'm going to explain why I chose each part. So first off, let's talk about this processor. I really wanted to showcase and highlight the new Ryzen 2nd Gen. Now, you're going, well, I'm not a fanboy. I look at things from a fact, and I personally prefer, at least for the stuff that I do, the workstation, the, Photoshop, the video rendering, streaming, it's all good with Ryzen. Now I'm not saying the 8700K is not good with any of those tasks. It's awesome. But for the price point that we're looking at, with like almost $120 lower than the 8700K with the same amount of cores and almost identical clock speeds except like the 0.5 boost, it really is just a much better option, especially when you're trying to save a little bit of money. And I'm not denying Intel's awesome at gaming. It is. I built the system for my brother using that processor. I'm just saying that I personally prefer it, especially for the budget low-end workstation tasks. So let's get into it. So that's why I chose the Ryzen. The Ryzen I chose was the 2600X. Now why? Because it's got a nice cooler that comes with it. And not to mention, it is, as I said, 6 cores, 12 threads, 4.3, 4.2 boost, and it's got a base clock of 4.6. Now, with that, you have the ability of 12 threads to basically stream and game at the same time. Now, streaming only needs around 4 threads / cores, and gaming can depend on there. Now, obviously, you're going to have other tasks in the background. You don't want to run out of cores. Now, that's most important for gamers, so that's why I really, prioritize having those extra cores for playing music in the background, things like that. Now, the second thing on this list, I have the motherboard. Now, it's important, especially when you get an X processor for Ryzen, that you have, a motherboard that supports overclocking for the RAM, because if you don't have a motherboard that does that, especially since Ryzen and the Infinity Fabric love high-speed RAM, you're going to run into problems. So, first off, let's talk about that motherboard. I chose the MSI X Gaming Plus motherboard, which is around $130. Now, you're going, well, why did I get an extra high chipset? Why did I get the advanced chipset rather than, downgrading to the X370 or such? Well, keep in mind, especially with gaming, you want to get the most clock speeds out of overclocking out there. You really want to, squeeze the lemon and get everything out of your processor, your RAM, all that stuff. So speaking, why I chose that is because it supports the 3200 megahertz RAM speeds, and of course we're going to get into the RAM next, which I did choose 3200 megahertz RAM, which comes in at around $170. If I didn't mention already, the whole part list below will be in the description. I think I might add this to the beginning of the video, never know, but I wanted to make sure I just put that out there as well. I make sure I should have it in the bottom. If not, someone comment. I'll make sure I get to it. So next up, I chose a 1 terabyte hard drive disk. Now this is not an SSD, and I'm sure with a little bit of extra budget that's left over, this computer right now doesn't really necessarily come up to $1,000. It comes up to like $950. If you really want to make sure, grab an SSD. 120 gigabyte will be awesome. It'll be around $50 and it'll finish that last little gap, but it'll have an extra option. The reason why I didn't include one is simply because a 1 terabyte hard drive is not really going to make a difference in SSD or not on your FPS, your streaming, etc. Yes, your load times might be a little bit different, but it's not going to necessarily make a huge difference to streaming. Not as much as the graphics card or GPU and CPU will in the long run. So let's talk about the GPU. I chose a GeForce GTX 1060 6GB model. Now this is the dual video card from ASUS, and this basically has, of course, that 6GB of video RAM, which is perfect for 1080p gaming at 60 FPS. Now, why I didn't really, try to get a higher graphics card, because basically, yes, NVIDIA Shadow Play and all that stuff, NVIDIA streaming, I've never used it before, but it's really hard to go through and stream off a graphics card, especially at those that frame rate. Graphics cards are just not built for that. And the CPU, especially with all the, OBS and all the nice broadcasting software out there, heavily relying on CPU. I didn't really feel like the investment was worth it to go put in an extra money into a graphics card when it would be more than substantial for getting 60 FPS, 120 FPS at 1080p without a problem, especially in like Fortnite, PUBG, all those games. I think would be fine. Now, you can't have a good streamer PC without a good case. Now, for this case, I needed something RGB. If the outside of the computer, especially for streamers, I like to show it off. And I feel like, especially for those streamers, you guys need a nice RGB case. So for this case, I've chosen the Cooler Master Masterbox Lite RGB. Now, this is a full-size case. It looks absolutely awesome, and honestly, if I had an option to build a budget computer or I was just trying to save money and I was looking for something relatively cheap, this would be perfect. It is awesome looking, and of course it has all the bells and whistles that you'd want on a regular case. Now finally, you can't leave out the power supply, and I've gone up and above for a 650 watt power supply, and this is basically from EVGA. I have used every single build that I have built over the last year has been with an EVGA power supply, and I gotta be honest with you, they're just the cheapest, highest quality out there, and I cannot disagree with any of that. It is the best. Honestly, I've used it, and I'm not fanboy, I'm just saying I have gotten it super cheap, and it is like not necessarily super cheap, but it's been the cheapest on the market, and it's done like for 650 watts, and you get something for 60 bucks with 650 watts was pretty much unheard of a year ago, and now the prices of them, they're just doing a good job, and I want to, that's basically the point of this video, is that's what we're shouting that out, is because it's nice to see some companies that are actually lowering the price down, actually offering something for a good deal with high quality, especially with a name like EVGA on it. So if you need help with tweaking this computer build in any way, like maybe you want, a higher processor, your budget's slightly above $1,000, there's a Discord in the description. That's basically all we do, is 100% tech Discord, and that's literally everybody on that server. We have verified people that actually know what they're talking about, so they can actually walk you through and help, and actually get a lot of fun out of doing it. And of course, if you need, you can contact me down there, and I'll help you individually set up your computer and get your computer set up. And if you need any build tips as well, that's also a good place to check out. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, of course, head down and give the video a like. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry, I'm not one of those cringy, gamers. Oh yeah, like the video at the beginning. I personally find it's a little difficult to like a video at the beginning when you don't even know what the video's out. Anyway, but thank you for watching. Check out my channel for other cool tech or other things. And of course, thank you very much, as I said, for watching. Goodbye.